Supreme Commander Zixus of the Araxian Empire stood aboard the bridge of the ASV Inevitable Victory, his crystalline exoskeleton reflecting the light of Earth's sun. The massive warship led a fleet of 30 vessels, each capable of destroying a small moon. Their arrival in this backwater solar system was meant to be a show of force, a simple subjugation of yet another primitive species that had barely achieved spaceflight. Scanning the third planet now, Supreme Commander, announced First Sensor Officer Kithix, her antennae twitching with confusion. The readings, they don't make sense. Zixus shifted his primary eyes toward the sensor display. Explain. They're still using combustion engines in their ground vehicles, yet I'm detecting quantum fluctuation patterns consistent with dimensional engineering. Kithix's voice rose with uncertainty, and their power generation seems to rely primarily on primitive solar collection and atomic fission, but there are energy signatures that suggest they're casually manipulating gravity wells. Before Zixus could respond, Communications Officer Ven's crystals flashed urgent patterns. Supreme Commander, we're being hailed. It's coming through our secure quantum-encrypted channels. That should be impossible for their technology level. On screen, Zixus commanded, his mandibles clicking with irritation. The holoscreen materialized, showing a human woman in what appeared to be casual clothing, sitting in what looked like a cluttered office. Behind her, a small creature that the database identified as a cat was knocking objects off a shelf, while a hot beverage steamed on her desk. "Hello, I'm Dr. Emma Patel, Earth's Deputy Assistant Undersecretary of Extraterrestrial Shenanigans," she said cheerfully, pausing to sip from her mug. "We noticed you trying to be sneaky with your approach, but your quantum wake was lighting up our detection grid like a Christmas tree. Would you like to discuss surrender terms?" Zixus's crystalline structure nearly shattered from shock. "Surrender. We are the Araxian Empire, conquerors of 1,000 worlds. You barely have a unified planetary government. Oh, that's adorable. You think government disorganization is a weakness," Emma laughed, reaching down to scratch the cat that had now settled in her lap. "By the way, we took the liberty of upgrading your fleet's quantum encryption. The old algorithm had a few holes you could drive a solar system through. No charge. Consider it a welcome gift." The bridge erupted in chaos as system after system reported unauthorized improvements. Their supposedly unhackable quantum computers had been not only accessed, but optimized by what appeared to be cat videos and something called TikTok challenges. "This is impossible," Zixus thundered. "Your species was using mechanical computers less than a century ago. How did you?" "Oh, that's a funny story, actually," Emma interrupted, typing something on a primitive-looking keyboard. "We were trying to figure out how to make better cat videos go viral, and it turned out the mathematics of social media engagement had some fascinating implications for quantum computing. Who knew, right?" As if to punctuate her point, every screen on the Inevitable Victory's bridge suddenly displayed dancing cat animations. They were, Zixus noted with horror, perfectly synchronized across quantum states that should have been impossible to coordinate. "Would you like to discuss those surrender terms now?" Emma asked, grinning as her cat began purring loudly. "Fair warning. One of the conditions is teaching us your crystal growing techniques. We think they'd be perfect for making better TV screens for watching cat videos." Zixus, Supreme Commander of the mighty Araxian Empire, found himself wondering if perhaps they had severely miscalculated in choosing Earth as their next conquest. The humans hadn't even noticed they were supposed to be intimidated. "Also," Emma added, "your fleet's break room replicators now all make something called pizza. You're welcome." Supreme Commander Zixus found himself in what the humans called a conference room aboard the International Space Station. His crystalline form refracted the Earth's blue glow through the station's viewport as he tried to maintain his dignity. The mighty Araxian fleet now hung in orbit, their weapon systems mysteriously converted into what humans called Wi-Fi hotspots. Across the table, Dr. Emma Patel was conducting what she called a breakfast meeting while her colleague, Dr. James, just call me Jimmy Rodriguez, was fiddling with an antiquated machine that produced an aromatic brown liquid. "So," Emma said between bites of something called a croissant, "about those surrender terms. We're particularly interested in your crystalline biotechnology. We think it might help us develop better phone screens, for watching videos of baby animals." Zixus's secondary mandibles clicked in frustration. "Our crystalline technology is the product of 10,000 years of careful evolution and genetic engineering. It cannot be reduced to entertainment devices." "Actually," Jimmy chimed in, finally getting the coffee maker to work, "we ran some simulations on my kid's Nintendo Switch last night. Your crystal structures are surprisingly similar to what happens when you try to optimize mobile game graphics. Want some coffee?" Before Zixus could refuse, a mug of the steaming liquid was placed before him. His environmental sensors indicated it was a complex organic compound that should have required advanced molecular engineering to produce. "This is a naturally occurring substance?" he asked, his scientific curiosity temporarily overriding his diplomatic dignity. "Well, the beans are natural. The brewing process is where the fun happens," Jimmy explained, now typing on what appeared to be a primitive handheld computer. "It's actually an incredibly complex chemical reaction that we mostly figured out through trial and error. By the way, I think I just solved your crystal lattice stability problem." "Our what?" Zixus's primary heart nearly stopped. The crystal lattice stability issue had plagued Araxian scientists for centuries, limiting their technological advancement. "Yeah. Look," Jimmy turned his device around, showing a game of Candy Crush. "If you think of your crystal matrices like matching puzzle games, the solution is pretty obvious. You just need to add a caffeine-like molecule here, and here." He made 3 quick moves in the game, creating a cascade of matching candies. Zixus's tertiary brain began processing the implications as his environmental sensors automatically analyzed the coffee's molecular structure. To his horror, he realized the human was right. The solution had been sitting in a beverage container all along. "Oh, and while we were figuring that out," Emma added casually, "we think we solved your species' photosynthesis inefficiency. Turns out the same principles that make good latte art also apply to light energy absorption patterns." "Who knew?" The Supreme Commander watched in stunned silence as his staff scientists, who had been quietly running analyses on their own devices, began generating excited crystalline harmonics, the Araxian equivalent of jumping up and down with excitement. "This is impossible," Zixus protested weakly. "Your species only discovered electricity 2 centuries ago. You shouldn't even understand the principles of quantum mechanics, let alone be able to solve problems that have puzzled our greatest minds for generations." "Speaking of quantum mechanics," Jimmy said, pulling out something called a smartphone, "have you guys tried Angry Birds?" The parabolic trajectories got us thinking about some interesting possibilities in quantum tunneling. "We developed a new FTL drive while trying to get 3 stars on level 47. Emma nodded enthusiastically. "It's much more efficient than your quantum bubble drive. Uses about as much energy as a microwave oven. Actually, that's because we literally based it on microwave technology." Someone was reheating coffee and noticed some weird space-time fluctuations. At that moment, Zixus's personal quantum communicator chimed with a priority message from the Araxian Science Council. They had just reviewed the coffee molecule analysis and were demanding immediate trade negotiations with Earth, specifically for coffee beans, mobile gaming devices, and something called viral cat videos. "Oh, perfect timing," Emma exclaimed, checking her own device. "The ISS crew just finished installing the pizza ovens in your fleet's mess halls. Want to grab a slice while we discuss technology exchange programs? We're particularly interested in learning how you grow your crystalline data storage arrays. We think they'd be perfect for archiving our cute animal meme collection." Zixus, supreme military commander of one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, found himself wondering if perhaps conquest wasn't the optimal approach after all. These humans seemed to achieve their greatest breakthroughs while barely paying attention, and he wasn't entirely sure his empire was ready for that kind of chaos. "Very well," he said, taking a careful sip of coffee. His sensory crystals immediately lit up with new neural pathways as the caffeine interacted with his crystalline biology. "But first, explain to me more about these cat videos. They seem to be central to many of your technological achievements." The Grand Imperial War Council of the Araxian Empire had convened in their Crystal Spire citadel on their homeworld. Supreme Commander Zixis stood before them, trying to explain why declaring war on Earth might be problematic. His presentation wasn't going well. "What do you mean they've submitted the wrong forms?" High Chancellor Kratix demanded, his crystals flashing patterns of confusion and irritation. "We're declaring war on them, not the other way around." Zixis pulled up a holographic display of the latest message from Earth. According to Dr. Patel, all declarations of war must be submitted in triplicate through their Department of Extraterrestrial Paperwork, which apparently requires a minimum of 17 different signatures, each in a specific color of ink that must be derived from organically sourced materials. "That's absurd," another council member chittered. "We are the Araxian Empire. We don't submit forms to inferior species." They've also filed a complaint with the Galactic Better Business Bureau. Zixis continued, his secondary crystals dimming with embarrassment. "Apparently, we failed to provide adequate notice of our intent to conquer, which violates their Consumer Protection in Interstellar Conquest Act of 2024. The council chamber erupted in crystalline harmonics of outrage. High Chancellor Kratix raised all four arms for silence. "Show me this complaint." The holographic display shifted to show a document that began, "To whom it may concern. We, the people of Earth, hereby lodge a formal complaint regarding the substandard attempted conquest by the Araxian Empire, hereafter referred to as the Attempting Conquerors." It goes on for another 300 pages, Zixis said wearily. Most of it is appendices about proper conquest notification procedures and something called GDPR compliance requirements. "Surely we can simply ignore their bureaucratic nonsense and proceed with the invasion," Kratix suggested. "We tried that," Zixis admitted. "They responded by sending us a link to their terms and conditions for interstellar warfare. When our legal experts tried to decrypt it, 3 of their crystalline matrices went into cascade failure from the sheer volume of subclauses. And then," he continued, bringing up another holographic document, "they informed us that by attempting to access their terms and conditions, we had automatically agreed to their privacy policy and subscribed to something called their newsletter." As if on cue, every quantum communication device in the council chamber chimed simultaneously. "Speaking of which," Zixis said, "that would be their weekly newsletter. This one appears to be 10 hot tips for more efficient planetary conquest. Number 7 will shock you." The council members stared in horror as their devices began filling with what humans called clickbait articles and promotional offers. "There's more," Zixis said grimly. "They've started a social media campaign. Apparently, our attempted invasion has become something called a meme." He projected a series of images showing Araxian warships photoshopped to wear something called "Deal With It" sunglasses. "The humans have also filed for intellectual property rights on our crystal technology," he added, claiming they invented it first because someone made a similar design in something called Minecraft. Their patent application included screenshots. High Chancellor Kratix's crystals had taken on the pale blue of defeat. How do they manage to weaponize bureaucracy like this? According to Dr. Patel, they've had centuries of practice with something called insurance companies, Zixis explained. She said this is actually their simplified version of paperwork, streamlined for extraterrestrial use. Simplified. Several council members harmonized in horror. "Yes, apparently, their standard Earth procedures would have required us to also provide proof of vaccination for our entire invasion force and something called a valid parking permit for our fleet. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They had conquered 1,000 worlds, but none had ever fought back with administrative procedures and social media campaigns. "There's one more thing," Zixis added reluctantly. "They've scheduled a mandatory HR training session for our entire invasion force about workplace sensitivity in modern interstellar conquest. Attendance is compulsory, and there will be a quiz at the end." High Chancellor Kradix's crystals dimmed to nearly black. Perhaps we should reconsider our conquest strategy." "We could," Zixis agreed, "but we'd need to fill out their application for cessation of hostile intent first. It's only 700 pages, but it needs to be completed in something called Comic Sans." The Araxian Empire's Strategic Command Center was in chaos. Supreme Commander Zixis stared at the multitude of holographic displays surrounding him, each showing a different aspect of humanity's newest offensive, something they called Internet culture. "Sir," Lieutenant Nexus reported, her crystals flickering with distress, "they've weaponized something called TikTok. Our troops are spending an average of 4 hours per day trying to learn something called dance challenges." Zixis watched in horror as footage showed entire squadrons of Araxian warriors attempting to synchronize their movements to something called Wednesday Dance. Their crystalline forms sparkled under the ship's lights as they tried to master the choreography. "That's not the worst of it," Captain Merrick's added, pulling up another display. "They've introduced our civilian population to something called streaming services. Our productivity has dropped by 60% because everyone is binge-watching something called The Office." A priority alert flashed across the main screen. "Now what?" Zixis demanded. "The humans have." Lieutenant Nexus paused, her crystals pulsing with confusion. "They've turned our invasion fleet into what they call a reaction GIF. It's being shared across their global information network with the caption, 'When you try to invade Earth, but they start filing paperwork.'" The display showed their once mighty armada, but edited to include something called sad lofi music and rain effects. It had already been shared several billion times. "Sir," another officer called out, "Dr. Patil is requesting a video conference. She says it's about our fleet's social media presence." Before Zixis could respond, Emma's familiar face appeared on the main screen. She was wearing what appeared to be casual Earth clothing with a cat sleeping in the background. "Hey there. Just wanted to check if you've seen your engagement metrics lately. Your Instagram aesthetic needs some serious work. Have you considered adding more lens flare to your warships?" "Dr. Patel." Zixis tried to maintain his dignity. "This is still technically a military invasion." "Oh, about that," Emma replied, taking a sip from her ever-present coffee mug. "Your invasion has been trending on Twitter. The hashtag Araxians Need Hugs is currently viral. Also, someone made a parody account for your flagship, and it has more followers than your official military channel." Zixis's crystals dimmed as he pulled up the mentioned account. The Inevitable Victories parody account was posting memes about quantum physics and complaining about Monday battles. "But that's not why I called," Emma continued cheerfully. "We noticed your species doesn't have any cat videos of your own, which is honestly a crime against galactic culture. So we've taken the liberty of sending some kittens to your homeworld. They should be arriving through our new quantum teleport system, the one we developed while trying to figure out same-day delivery for pizza." "You did what?" Zixis's primary heart nearly stopped. "Don't worry, we included care instructions and laser pointers. Speaking of which, we discovered some interesting applications of your crystalline technology for pet toys. Did you know your quantum communication crystals react amazingly well to catnip?" As if on cue, alerts began pouring in from the Araxian homeworld. The kittens had arrived, and the entire science division had apparently abandoned their posts to play with them. Videos were already spreading across their internal networks. "Sir," Captain Merrick's reported, her own crystals betraying her interest, "the Science Council is requesting immediate allocation of resources for something called pet accessories research and development." Oh good, they got the memo about the pet fashion show next week. Emma beamed. By the way, we're planning to start a streaming series called Keeping Up with the Araxians. Your invasion attempt has great reality TV potential. Zixis slumped in his command chair. Is there any aspect of our society you haven't infiltrated with your internet culture? Well, Emma pretended to think, your interpretive crystal dance TikToks could use some work. But don't worry, we're sending over some choreographers. They'll help you go viral in no time. Have you considered doing a collaboration with any Earth influencers? The High Council is requesting guidance. Lieutenant Nexus interrupted, her crystals now showing patterns of amusement. They want to know if they should create official social media accounts, and if Casual Friday is now mandatory for invasion forces. Emma brightened. Perfect timing. We just finished setting up LinkedIn profiles for your entire command structure. You might want to update your skills section. Attempted planetary conquest is so last century. Have you considered adding cross-cultural communication and social media management instead? As Zixis watched his invasion force transform into what humans called content creators, he wondered if perhaps they should have tried invading a less internet-savvy species. The humans hadn't just defeated their military strategy. They'd made it into entertainment. 6 months after the invasion began, Supreme Commander Zixis found himself in a rather unusual situation, attending the first intergalactic gaming and technology convention, hosted jointly by Earth and the Araxian Empire. The main exhibition hall of the International Space Station had been converted into what humans called a convention center, complete with booth displays, food stands, and surprisingly comfortable chairs designed to accommodate crystalline life forms. I still can't believe this is how it all turned out. Zixis mused to Dr. Emma Patel, who was helping him adjust his newly designed casual crystal configuration. Apparently his usual military formation was too corporate for a gaming convention. I know, right? Emma grinned, sipping from a mug of something called crystal-infused coffee, a new beverage developed through Earth-Araxian collaboration. Who would have thought that failing to conquer Earth would become your empire's most successful venture ever? She had a point. The Araxian Empire's economy had grown by 300% since they'd accidentally become Earth's primary social media entertainment. Their failed invasion fleet now hosted the galaxy's most popular streaming channel, Aliens React to Earth Stuff, and their military budget had been largely redirected to what humans called R&D, though it mostly involved playing games and watching cat videos. Supreme Commander, Lieutenant Nexus called out, her crystals flashing excited patterns. The human game developers have finished integrating our crystalline technology into something called Minecraft. They want you to test the new Crystal Dimension expansion. Before Zixis could respond, a crowd of human and Araxian teenagers rushed past, all wearing t-shirts with the viral meme of his flagship wearing sunglasses. They were heading to something called a speedrunning competition. Oh, and the quantum physics panel is about to start, Emma added, checking her phone. You know, the one where we explain how we accidentally solved faster-than-light travel while trying to reduce gaming lag. Speaking of which, Zixis said, his crystals shifting to a pattern of scientific curiosity. Our scientists are still trying to understand how your species manages to make such incredible breakthroughs while barely paying attention. That's the neat part, Emma laughed, leading him toward the panel room. We're not trying to make breakthroughs at all. We're just really, really good at finding shortcuts to do fun things more efficiently. They passed a booth where Araxian crystal engineers were collaborating with human game designers on something called ultra-immersive VR. Apparently, they discovered that Araxian crystalline technology combined with human gaming concepts could create perfect holographic environments. By the way, Emma said, pausing to take a selfie with some excited Araxian fans, have you seen the latest numbers? The Joint Earth-Araxian Space Academy is now the most applied to institution in 3 galaxies. Turns out lots of species want to learn our chaotic innovation approach. Yes, Zixis sighed. his crystals showing a mix of amusement and resignation. The High Council is still trying to understand how our attempted military conquest turned into an educational and cultural exchange program. Could be worse, Emma shrugged. Remember when you were going to destroy our planet? Now we're helping you redesign your warships to be better gaming lounges. The cup holders alone increased your military recruitment by 200%. A commotion near the main stage drew their attention. The High Chancellor of the Araxian Empire was attempting something called a dance battle against a human grandmother who had apparently become a TikTok sensation for her crystal cultivation techniques. Sir, Captain Merrick's approach, her crystals barely containing her excitement. Earth's Entertainment Division has a new proposal. They want to turn our invasion attempt into a reality TV show called How to Fail at Conquering Earth and Succeed at Everything Else. Approved, Zixis said without hesitation. His public relations crystal had learned to recognize a viral hit when it saw one. But make sure we include the episode where their bureaucracy defeated our entire legal department. Already trending, Emma noted, showing him her phone. By the way, your crystal configuration right now is perfect for something we call an Instagram aesthetic. Want to do a quick photo shoot for your lifestyle blog? As Zixis posed for what would become the galaxy's most liked social media post. Caption: Living my best invasion life #blessed #humanity squared #crystal lifestyle. He reflected on how differently things had turned out from their original invasion plans. The Araxian Empire had set out to conquer Earth and instead had found something far more valuable, a species so chaotically innovative that they could revolutionize the galaxy while procrastinating on TikTok. They had feared humanity's weapons, but had been defeated by their Wi-Fi. They had come seeking conquest and instead found cat videos, coffee, and the kind of technological advancement that only happens when someone is trying to make their gaming setup slightly more convenient. Ready for the panel? Emma asked, finishing her crystal coffee. We're revealing how we accidentally solved artificial gravity while trying to keep snacks from floating away during space gaming sessions. You know, Zixis said, his crystals glowing with what humans called the perfect selfie lighting. I think failing to conquer Earth might be the most successful thing the Araxian Empire has ever done. Funny how that works out. Emma grinned. Now, about those crystal cat toys we developed.